Chapter 7 Fateful Decisions. This is the end. She was pounding the ground, hurtling towards Evergreen Row and the snarling, sickening smiles of the waiting wolves. At their head, somehow, stood the awful captain with the single red eye. He had outsmarted and outmaneuvered her. How could she have thought she might escape? She made a decision. She would not, did not, slow down. Heather sped toward them, hoping to plow into the red eye with one powerful leap and kick. Rabbits were capable of great force when they struck with their legs at high speed. She had never done it, of course, but she wasn't about to quit. She was seconds away from the gang of wolves. They crowded around the trunk of the first pine, panting, their lolling tongues dripping saliva. As she hurried their way, some tensed and took a few steps back, but Red Eye advanced. He stood in front of his soldiers at the edge of the first great evergreen, beneath the drooping branches. The rows of green pines stretched back beyond them nearly all the way to 7 mounds. Heather prayed that Pickett was safe. There was nothing else she could do for him now. The last few yards, a final burst of speed, that single red eye. It became a target and she a hurtling arrow. He barked for the wolves to spread out, cut off the possibility of her darting sideways in an attempt to escape. They obeyed at once, fanning out in a wide arc behind Red Eye, extending like a giant mouth ready to snap closed on her. She readied herself to launch at him, noticing at the last moment the low limbs of the pine above the snarling face of her enemy. She coiled, in stride, her powerful legs ready to propel her forward at an even greater speed. The wolves at the flanks closed in on her, but Red Eye stood firm. He rose to his full height and drew a long spear from where it lay hidden behind him. Too late! She launched. Pickett reached 7 mounds with some difficulty. He had done his best to calculate the quickest route while accounting for the need to cut back and forth as often as possible. As he fled, he had been tortured by the conflict in his mind. Should I go back? He had slowed a few times, but always remembered Heather's charge. Don't look back. He didn't know what to do. What would Father say? What would King Jupiter have done? Finally, he decided that, for the moment at least, he would do what Heather asked and trust to her plan. 7 mounds came into view, an odd, almost natural-looking series of large hills that ran, all 7, in succession. Running hard, he crossed between the shorter rise that separated the second and third mound and sprinted into the small, narrow clearing he and Heather knew so well. He removed the broken limbs and brush that disguised the small cave-like opening. He looked from side to side, confused and afraid. He slid roughly inside the opening. All was dark. He closed his eyes and sagged onto the cold, damp floor. Opening his eyes, he looked around the cave. His eyes had adjusted to the dimness, and the slim opening let in a glowing seam of light. The room was small, with a high ceiling. It could hold maybe 5 or 6 more rabbits his size. He heard a faint trickle, like a small stream. As his eyes grew more and more accustomed to the dark, he noticed what looked like another fissure in the rock at the back of the cave wall. There was no light coming through it. He crossed back to the entrance and peered out, fear and guilt gnawing at him. He hung his head. He didn't know what to do. He felt as if he was responsible for all that had happened. It was certainly his fault that the wolves had found them. Don't look back, she had said. Was that because she knew if he did, he would see her? What? What did she not want him to see? It didn't take much imagination to know. She had given herself up to save him. He was alive because of her. Despair mingled with gratitude within him. Guilt rose in his throat like a gag, and he slumped to the ground, beating the rock floor of the cave. His father had tried to teach him courage, had told countless tales of great rabbits who sacrificed and did brave deeds for those they loved. He knew his Whitsun mariner, Captain Blackstar, and though only a beginning, the tale of King Jupiter Goodson. He was supposed to be like those very real heroes who had gone before. He was supposed to protect his sister, to never leave her. He was supposed to protect baby Jax. He should have run into the danger and done all he could to rescue Jax, no matter the cost. Hadn't he promised as much? Instead, he was a cowering, crying rabbit staying safe in a cave. Heather had been the one who acted heroically. Heather, his only sister and dearest friend in the world. Will I ever see her again? Will I ever see my Jax? He rose and looked out of the cave entrance. He peered down the flat, level stretch of ground running a short distance from the mound to the thick trees straight ahead. The trees and brush were heavy on both sides of the short clearing, and Pickett imagined wolves and hawks waiting inside them to strike the moment he left the cave. It was like a tunnel, the overhanging limbs and leaves forming the top, with the roots of the trees curving back toward the path. Trying to ignore the terrors that might lurk on either side of the thick brush, he set his gaze on the trees beyond. That way led to Heather, to Jax, and their parents, if any of them were still alive.